I don't know how sustainable it would be over the long run. Everything comes to an end. But as of now, they seem to be doing very well. And I don't think there is any alternative that they have. They must do it. I mean, everything they have done, the results are beyond expectations. I didn't expect that a country like Iran would be able to, throw so many things at various people, but they have done it. And for me, under the circumstances, they were attacked by very powerful countries. They had to do. I can only say that the others, their other people in the area, including countries like us, may not have done enough, but they have done very well. I do not know about these things. I only know that on such matters, especially when the war is on, all types of rumors, assessments, self-serving, wishfully created, they are spread. What is the actual thing? Have they done anything or not? That I would not know. And I can only make my assessment from the results on ground and putting together, various things that come. And assessment is always one's own. Considering the last 2 weeks or whatever has passed, considering the reaction of different people from Israel, from United States, from some of the others who could be neutral, such assessments. So one comes to certain conclusion and says, we do not know how much has been destroyed because the Iran claim that they had destroyed so many of the other assets also looked good to me because of the fact that Tel Aviv during the last few days has been under bombardment. Fires have been there. But all of this is not as important as the fact in what spirit, in what with what frequency, with what you know, let's say the ambience in which one operates. How does one continue? If you think that there is some weakness, if they have suffered, and they must have hidden it very well, if the other side, Israel or so on, if they also under pressure, but so far they also seem to have at least given the message that they're okay. So I do not know. But all told, the various things that come in as the result of 2 weeks indicate that so far the exchanges have generally been in favor of Iran. And it was understandable because of the fact that they changed the nature of war. Like the Afghans fight not with conventional weapons, they found their own version of guerrilla warfare. The Israeli and the Iranian drones and drone doctrines and drone employment sound quite impressive to me. But they have no choice, frankly. If you ask me, all the cards that Iran has under the circumstances will have to be employed. It's up to people like us or countries like Pakistan to, instead of getting impatient, try and make the strategy work to the extent we can. Of course, United States, Israel, and some others will not like it. Up to now, you might have heard that whenever Trump has appealed to anyone in the West, come and help me open the Strait of Hormuz, it has drawn a blank because I think they must all be having their reason, but somewhere deep down, this fact must have trickled down and must have registered home, must have driven that under the circumstances, the aggrieved party is the Iran, and whatever they are doing is under stress, under duress, under compulsion. So they'll try and stay out of it for as long as possible. In the meantime, what else will happen? What the Chinese, the Russians, and how they will try and compensate, that again is an open question. As of now, I find that the Trump-led strategy, especially about this Hormuz business, has not worked, has not drawn anyone. If the Saudis, to some extent, seem upset, that is quite possible. There are other reasons. There are not only the oil reasons, because they had also, constructed a particular infrastructure to bypass the one. But if there is anyone, about which again I want to know, all types of things do come in, I will understand that they are, but surprisingly, they're also lying low on this front. Because considering the environment, how the whole region is working and reacting, and let me say that the Saudis must also have smelled, if not the coffee, the cover. I said prolonged war does may mean anything. I'm sure nothing is, in, unlimited resources. No one has, not even the United States. But the impression given is that their production system works efficiently and they probably are keeping up with the expenditure. I do not. But remember one thing, that whatever else, the others, Chinese and the Russians may not have done, I think they have done something along the electronics. They must have done something on the, even the some weaponry about which they are very discreet. They keep close. But on one thing they must have done, because they know that the thing that is going to tilt the balance in their favor, in favor of Iran, is the missile. And the missile technology that has been evolved in Iran is not entirely indigenous. The Chinese and the Russians seem to have helped to a great extent. So that means the things keep coming. But we are not talking about, years, even months. In the next couple of weeks, one will find out enough about the curve that the conflict is taking. And that would be the time to say now they are running out, because for that I was told only a week ago that it's the other side that might be running out. Implausible that it may find, because America, etc., should be having plenty of resources. But as they are firing, and because of the cost of missiles, that they are the one who are suffering. But these are those things that one has learned to ignore, for the simple reason that these are said as part of a psychological warfare, disinformation, etc., to keep people like us also busy to some extent. If the firing goes on, if they are both firing, that means as of now, both arsenal are in reasonable operational shape. No, I mean, of course, once you start, it's not necessary that the original aim in any case was unrealistic. Anyone who knew about Iran would know that on such occasions there was no likelihood of any regime change. Iranis have, a past history of coming together on such places. After it's over, they would see. So that was going to happen. So aim is, now that you have started it, how to end it at a favorable note. That is what I suppose they must be working. And in case of Iran, it's very easy for us to say they must now get the whole thing out forever. It may not be possible, because Iranis must also calculate very carefully how long can they do it. And secondly, and I think since we have seen that peace of mind and also that program of mind, one will be very careful to one one would have to take into account that you do not push a mad country, a completely a country that is then goes out of its mind because of this threat to its existence, and start using the safest Simpson's option. You know about that. That is, Simpson brought down the citadel on his head, died himself, and also took the key. And that is what the nuclear thing can do. And this Simpson's option, the book was written about 35 or 40 years ago. And it was in context of Islam, that it might have to use it because of its environment. It was once probably very close to thinking about it, and that was when I think the 73 war threatened Israel to that extent. And the message that I heard at that time, in whatever language it was that Uh, someone desperately said the third temple might not exist anymore. So let's pull out the nukes, something like that. So there is a history. There is also a reason to believe that if a country like Israel, we are of course very pragmatic, we want to live. Iran has no reasons to commit suicide, but a country like Israel could go to that extent because they have in the past, in the history, they faced many such ones in which they were thrown out of one place, thrown out of a country. The Holocaust have happened, and right now it is led by those people who are who could be thinking, well, we are going to be in great trouble. We are not likely to survive very long. So the famous saying, after me the deluge, we take others also down with us. Or at least the threat can be made, and that threat may have to be encountered. And that is why I believe that, these threshold business, in nuclear stuff, the threshold business is so important. And it is all in your mind. You have to judge it yourself. No one declares it. No one declares the genuine one. And there are reasons because they are not relevant right now. And that they have to be careful. So at some stage, let's say if the situation keeps on getting worse the way it is, enough number of people also from the Iranian side, Chinese, Russians, that's what my suggestion is, that we also try and work out in cooperation with countries like China, Russia, only two countries who matter really, and these things, who can also talk to the other side and ensure that that particular psychological moment does not arise. You see, people make such demands, people respond in certain manners. That does not mean that this is either the start or the end of it. We do not know what actually will happen ultimately, where people will settle down. But they must, talk tough. The opening gambits are always, some sort of, to the extreme. And then if you're talking about back channel, they are built down. They are moderated. People will ultimately come to the so-called common denominator. We do not know what it might be, but it seems very reasonable that no one is going to agree, uh, you know, let's say very lightly on certain things. They must negotiate hard. In case of Iran, it is important to negotiate very hard because otherwise, the whole thing cannot be repeated time and again. Guarantees, no guarantees can be absolute. That is one sure. But they will ask for guarantees. Like some people say, write it down, as if the written agreement is going to make sure that nothing will happen. All agreements are actually made to be broken at the convenient time, and that is why you conclude on certain things in which you can at least say that as of now, considering the circumstances, we have achieved the maximum possible, maximum feasible. You can convey that message that we've done very well. Look, I have the rest of the world, withdrawing from so and so. And the other says, well, that was the idea. We wanted to actually give the message. It's not going to be easy. You cannot develop these weapons, etc., etc. The rest of us will believe whatever we wanted to be. But coming to that particular point, where it would end, we do not. Guarantees will be asked for the sake of it. Guarantees might even be given for countries like Russia, China. Ultimately, even the European countries may come in and try to give guarantees. The last time the nuclear deal with Iran, how many guarantors were there? Almost everyone, from the east and from the west. Trump one day says, go climb a pole, and that was the end of it. No, basically, at the operational level, so there should be no doubt. If the American assets are going to be used from these bases, then you have to cripple them, you have to target. Now that goes without saying, and there does not need to be, any law invoked and law, no, because it's a friendly country and so on. So you would continue talking about it, but you will target. So that targeting is going to be done. How effective? Have certain bases been crippled? I suppose a couple of them probably have been. Or the more important thing is the message for the future. Basis, and this is a very old lesson, and countries like us and the Arabs never seem to learn it. Foreign bases are not to guarantee your security. In fact, they can endanger your security, and when the time comes, you can be quite sure they will pack up and leave. Was it too difficult to understand? But that is that the human fragility, human stupidity, it still like to believe that the Americans are there. And sometimes I think these forceful, they can't do very much about it because of weak need leadership, not weak leadership are generally leadership in these areas are pretty much for the sale. So they will probably continue to, with that facade and with, or giving their people that illusion that we are allies with the world's mightiest one. In fact, it's dangerous, very dangerous. The simpler option, can they go? I mean, it looks like simple, that you know, with the neighbors, you make certain arrangements. We don't do it. This is a very typical third world, especially a Muslim phenomena. You don't do it because of reasons that I do not know. Maybe some of the get some good scholars, psychologists, psychiatrists, they can tell you. But there is that war going on, and we have not stopped our own little games. Indo-Pak, FPAC, we continue with that. For us, these are seem to be more important than that future threat. And for that, one knows what to do, but why we can't do it? That's again something that needs lots of discussion and analysis. It's quite possible because one had reason to believe that these, like Hezbollahs and Houthis, they have been weakened, that they are threatened from elsewhere also. Hezbollah has come into action. Houthis have not. They are the Houthis waiting for the right time when it is right, or they have been told not to do it because right now there is now no such threat. I mean, previously the threat was to the Gazans, but now Iran thinks that the Houthis' contribution will not make any difference. So why endanger your ally? Again, one would not know. That the fact is that Houthis have the potential, and at a desperate situation, they could even jump in. But as of now, no. They also, I also believe that they're not needed. Iran on its own is doing very well. Depends on how it ends now. These protests are for the birds. They are formalities. They must do it for their own, you know, for their own public and so on. They will say this is wrong and that's wrong. But there is nothing that they can do. Probably not much they can do. So they'll wait how it ends, and then one will have to think out: do we want to now a new relationship with Iran, or no? It was not best. The old thing was better, or a new amongst themselves. That might come. That amongst themselves they like to do something a little more substantial. I do not know which other countries would be willing to join, but they have refused because of all the reasons that we have talked about. And if the US could do it on its own, it would have done something. It need not have appealed to them. At this time, you are not asking people to come and help you because it's already a very bad, it balance the the visuals are very bad. That you have the sole superpower, but you're asking others to come and join you, open a bay, open a gulf. but if they have done it, it means they probably find that they will not be able to do it on their own. And the others have said because they know either it's a lost game, it's no purpose, or their people would not agree. There are also that public pressure. Why do we want to go and join that particular war? It's already a bad war. Oil, energy, all sorts of things are falling through. And if America needs us, and America by itself cannot do it, it means it's a lost cause. So the whole thing adds up to something in which I can understand why even the closest ally like Britain would not. De-escalation, how are we going to do it? Because so far we have, we are buzzing on the sideline because of the difficulty of making a choice. Iran, Saudi Arabia, everything all right. So they might have asked Iran, is there anything we could do, or there is nothing we can do, or if you like, if you don't mind, we just stay out for the time being. So they might have said that. As far as de-escalation is concerned, this type of position can help because you have not taken sides. You have that credential to get in and says, look, we've been watching you, and I don't think that's been very good. The Iranians and the Saudis or the Arabs were going to be in the area, and we now like to use our good offices if you also accept that we like to mediate. One would say that. Our ability to do that is very limited, very, very. Because what is it that we can do actually? Do we promise something in the future? Which is difficult. After all, there are all types of agreements have been there, and on certain things these could not be invoked. So the real people who can mediate and bring about that de-escalation are these two countries like China and Russia. China and Russia. That's about all. Maybe an odd country like Japan could be called in if the Iranians agreed, or maybe an odd, yes, before one forgets, there are a couple of European countries. They played a very good role. Spain, Norway, and I believe one more, or, Netherlands, or someone who have stayed out on very many, fronts. When the Gaza was being hit at that time also, the three countries, Ireland, sorry, not Holland, Ireland, Spain, and Norway, they refused to take part. In fact, uh, their stance was not liked by Israel at all. I do not know if the relationship is still diplomatic relations were still on or not. America did not like it. So those three countries have a better chance and better, they position themselves much better to be introduced. I mean, I do not know how it will end, but the fact is that I think we believe that by just staying out, we've done a wise thing. Someone like me does not agree with that. If we knew that well under the circumstances, we had to play a more proactive role to ensure that Iran's position remains sustainable, that there is, we can, even if all these missiles were not working, we could provide them the help that ultimately would be helpful to us because must have heard if that failed, that particular obstacle was removed, then there were other countries like Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indonesia, etc., etc. It's not only because of Israel; it's also because of that bigger nexus. And there we could have done much more by staying out, by opting out of this active battle. Some people would say we did a wise thing. I think we were playing uh, a pragmatic game, perhaps, but in the long run, it's not going to be helpful because you talked about what will happen later on. I People say, okay, thank you. You had gave us plenty of verbal support. The semantic support was there. I don't think you didn't even provide any air defense to cultural heritages like Isfahan, for example. Did whether it was asked or not, that I do not know. But at such places you volunteer. You can do those many things yourself, but your air defense, as such, can be supplemented by yours. Try that.